It's a wonderful time to be alive, at least in sporting terms, because from one Summer Olympics, we moved to the Winter Olympics. It's Wednesday, and I am your host, Mokyle Tinubu, and you are watching Plus Sports on Plus TV Africa, the home of all the sports news you need to kickstart your day. Now, we go to the Beijing Winter Olympics. Elite Nigerian monobob and skeleton competitor Simidele Adeagbo has lodged a formal complaint with the International Bobsleigh and Skeleton Foundation, IBSF, alleging gender discrimination in the sports allocated to men and women at the Beijing Games. In a letter to the IBSF, lawyers for the 2018 Pyeongchang Olympians said she was excluded from the 2022 Olympic monobob event by a single spot due to an insidious and willful gender disparity in the number of sled spots made available for men and women. The monobob was introduced to the Olympic program for the Beijing Games with the intention of bolstering the number of women who can compete in the bobsleigh events in Beijing. Men are allocated 28 sled spots in the 4-man bobsleigh event and 30 spots in the 2-man, while women are allocated 20 spots in the monobob and 20 in the 2-person bobsleigh. 14 of the 20 monobob competitors also competed in the doubles. The letter indicated that Adeagbo would initiate an arbitration proceeding before the Court of Arbitration for Sports on February 25th if the IBSF cannot provide dispute resolution procedures for her to exhaust first. Adeagbo finished 20th out of 20 in the skeleton in Pyeongchang and last month won the monobob European Cup race in Winterberg, Germany, becoming the first African athlete to win an international bobsleigh race. The letter comes as the I.O.C faces criticism over geographic representation at the Winter Games. African winter sports athletes suffered a blow after the I.O.C denied a request by the coaches of Ghana's I.O.C Rampant to reinstate continental quotas in bobsleigh and skeleton for the Beijing Games, and their removal left sliding sports with no African representation. While missing the chance to compete in Beijing was heartbreaking, Adeagbo said she was undeterred. Now, from one scandal to the other for the I.O.C, Kamila Valieva, who helped win the team event at the Beijing Games only to return a positive test in a December 25th sample that was reported on February 8th, shrugged off the doping scandal on Tuesday, February 15th, to dominate the women's single short program. The Russian is ahead in the hunt for a gold medal that is unlikely to be awarded at the Beijing Games. She had been allowed to compete following a decision by the Court of Arbitration for Sports. The New York Times reported on Tuesday that Valieva had 3 drugs that could be used to treat heart conditions in the sample she provided last December. This has now raised criticism of the I.O.C for allowing Valieva to continue to compete. In addition to testing positive for the banned angina drug, tremetazine, the report said the Stockholm laboratory that analyzed her sample also found evidence of 2 other heart medications that are not on the banned list. He is speaking, of course, of Shah Richardson, who was banned for abuse of marijuana before the Tokyo Olympics. She has been a vocal critic online of the I.O.C's actions and the manner in which they've handled this particular case involving Valieva. Now, of course, you might agree with her. She is not, of course, saying that she shouldn't have been banned, but she is saying, of course, that the playing field should be level, because oftentimes different athletes give an example of drugs that are being used for something else, but do carry within them substances that maybe are banned at the Olympics. And regardless of whatever health condition they're treating, the point they always make, the I.O.C, that is use some other drug or pull out. You are not by obligation forced to compete if you cannot do the sport, if you cannot participate without taking a drug that contains the substances that have already been banned per the rules. Now let's move on to the Champions League match from last night. Kylian Mbappe scored a stunning individual goal in stoppage time to give Paris Saint-Germain a 1-0 home victory over Real Madrid and spare Lionel Messi's blushes after he had missed a penalty in their Champions League last 16, first leg last night, February 15th. It took PSG 94 minutes to find the winner with a brilliant run by Mbappe, who danced in between two defenders and calmly slid the ball into the far corner to earn PSG a deserved victory after they had dominated the encounter. PSG missed several chances and were thwarted by Real Madrid keeper Thibaut Courtois, who denied Mbappe on several occasions before superbly pushing away Messi's spot kick in the second half. Real Madrid finished the game with 0 shots on target, while PSG had 8 with almost 60% of possession. Real will be without Casemiro and Ferland Mendy for the second leg at home on March 9th. The pair were both shown yellow cards and will be suspended for collecting 3 yellows in the competition. Courtois repeatedly frustrated Messi and Mbappe. His best save came early in the second half when Messi stepped up for the penalty after Mbappe had been fouled inside the area by Dani Carvajal. The Belgian stretched low to his left to stop the Argentinian's shot with his hand. But 30 minutes later, Mbappe found the winner, and Courtois could only watch as the ball went through his legs and into the corner of the net. I know this was new heavyweight money versus old champions, old pedigree of Europe. But most people, most analysts do not believe these two giants of the game are specifically to be expected to be at the finals or even win the competition. Of course, either of them have significant roster of players, a significant first 11, and a bench of talent that could come on and allow them to go as far as the final and even win the competition. And yet, the strongest teams in the competition seem to be Manchester City and Liverpool. And speaking of Liverpool, they played tonight, and Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp is expecting Inter to pose a big threat in their UEFA Champions League round of 16. Returning to the San Siro after a 100% record in the group stage, the German doesn't believe the Reds will have an advantage over their Italian opponents. Defender Trent Alexander-Arnold believes that Liverpool should be winning at least one trophy every season. The 23-year-old said while their rivals Manchester City have won the league on many occasions, they, unlike Liverpool, haven't managed to lift the Champions League trophy. And as for the other favourites who played last night, Manchester City coach Pep Guardiola said Bernardo Silva was the perfect player after the Portuguese midfielder's double helped his side to secure a 5-0 win over Sporting Lisbon in their Champions League last 16 first leg on Tuesday night, February 15th. Manchester City were dominant from start to finish in the Portuguese capital to all but seal their spot in the quarterfinals with the 5-goal victory, the joint biggest winning margin in a Champions League knockout game. Silva scored his first ever Champions League brace and his first goals in the competition in almost a year in a vintage display, a performance all the sweeter given that he came through the academy at sporting rivals Benfica. Looking to go one better after losing in the final to Chelsea last season and pursuing the one major trophy that has eluded Guardiola since he joined City in 2016. The Premier League champions laid down a marker in Lisbon, but despite steering his side to their biggest ever win in an away game in any round of the competition, the Spaniard was not totally satisfied with what he saw in the Jose Alvalade Stadium. In the only EPL game of the night, and after 9 games without a goal, Ralph Rangnick said Cristiano Ronaldo produced his best performance for Manchester United in recent weeks as they got back to the winning ways they've been seeking after a 2-0 victory over Brighton. Cristiano Ronaldo's 51st minute strike, which ended a 6-game goal drought in the Premier League, and Bruno Fernandes' goal in injury time helped lift the Red Devils into the top 4. Rangnick described his side's first half performance as Dr. Jekyll, but was happy with a more aggressive approach in the second. The German added it was an important victory to end their run of draws in their last 2 league games. Now, Novak Djokovic is prepared to miss the French Open and Wimbledon rather than have a COVID-19 vaccination, but is not an anti-vaxxer, the world number 1 said in his first interview since his failed attempt to play at the Australian Open. Djokovic, who won Wimbledon and the French Open last year, is set to return to competitive action at an ATP tournament in Dubai next week for the first time since his deportation from Melbourne ahead of the Australian Open. After an 11-day roller coaster involving 2 visa cancellations, 2 court challenges, and 5 nights in 2 stints at an immigration detention hotel, the unvaccinated Djokovic was deported before the tournament began. Another win at Melbourne Park, where Djokovic has won 9 titles, would have statistically made him the most successful men's player, but instead it was his longtime rival Rafa Nadal who nudged ahead of him by lifting the trophy last month. The debacle deprived the 34-year-old the chance to win a record-extending 10th Australian Open and a men's record 21st Grand Slam title. In my opinion, as long as he's willing to deal with the consequences of his actions and make those choices as an individual as he's free to do so, then I don't see any reason to criticize Djokovic. Now, in another tennis story regarding my personal favorite, one of my personal favorite tennis players, I will leave you with this story because, I want to enforce my views on you. But Andy Murray gained revenge on Taro Daniel for a defeat at last month's Australia Open with a win over his Japanese rival on Tuesday, February 15th, at the Qatar Open. The Scottish player, who has spent the last few years dealing with hip injury, swept aside Daniel in straight sets, 6-2, 6-2. Murray was in impressive form, winning 4 aces and breaking his opponent 5 times to win in Doha. It means Murray now moves on to the quarterfinals to play Spain's Roberto Bautista Agut today, February 16th. My name is Mikhail Tinubu, and as I always say, never forget, life is never boring with some sports. Have a wonderful day.